So April 15th, that's the date that everyone knows, right? It's the IRS filing deadline for individuals. You don't forget it. It's like a birthday, right? It's baked into your brain, except instead of a cake, you get a tax bill. But what's interesting about that date is that most people think April 15th is the only day that matters to the IRS. But I want you to think about that for a moment. The IRS doesn't operate on one deadline, they operate on a full calendar, and that calendar runs all year long. If you miss one date, just one, boom, penalty, interest, fees that you didn't have to pay otherwise. And a lot of times your tax preparer, look, good people, but they're busy. They've got hundreds of clients. They're dealing with filing, extensions, audits, and they're not calling you every month saying, hey, heads up. So what happens? Well, you miss a deadline in June or September and the IRS charges you. So you look at your return and think, man, taxes were high this year. But not only were the taxes high, I bet the late fees were high too. So I said enough. Me and the team at keepmost.com took a quick break from the 90 plus tax deductions and credits we have on the platform. We sat down, look at this, we went deep on this, and we mapped out every single IRS deadline that actually matters, month by month for 2026, not just April. So today we're going to walk through it together so nothing sneaks up on you again. And listen, not all of this applies to everyone, but many of these will absolutely apply to you. If you want to get all of these notes, deadlines, forms, penalties, and one free PDF, I'll let you know how to get that in a bit later. Let's get into it. Starting with January, of course, you're coming off the holidays, you're thinking goals, new year, but the IRS, they're thinking cash flow. So first thing, if you work in the service industry, waiters, bartenders, drivers, you're already on the clock. January 12th, that was your deadline to report December 2025 tips to your employer. Now, why does this matter? Well, because if you don't report it, they can't withhold the tax properly. Then we have January 15th. This is a big one. If you're self-employed, a freelancer, or an investor, meaning you don't have taxes automatically withheld from a paycheck, the system is what we call pay as you go. You owe your Q4 estimated tax for 2025. So if you owe more than $1,000 and you skip this, penalties start immediately. But you are going to love this. There is a loophole. If you file your entire 2025 tax return and pay it in full by February 2nd, you skip that January payment entirely. Now, you might be asking, Karan, why February 2nd? Well, it's because January 31st this year is a Saturday. So if your paperwork is ready, you keep that money for an extra 2 weeks. You control the cash flow, you earn the interest, you get to hold on to that money a little while longer and not the IRS. Now let's talk about February. February is for payroll and withholding. February 10th is the deadline to report January tips. This is a monthly discipline. From here on out, this becomes a rhythm, same rule every single month for tips. Now, February 16th, this one gets people every single year, and it's the W-4 exemption deadline. If last year you told your employer, don't withhold, I owe nothing, that expires. So just a quick note that it does not roll over. If you miss this, your company is legally required to withhold at the highest single rate, and that's not a small number. That's the maximum withholding whether you owe it or not. Now, March is business filing month. Farmers and fishermen, if you skip January estimates, March 2nd is your hard stop. You want to file and pay in full. Then March 10th, we have tips for February. Every month, same play. But the big one, make sure you circle this, is March 16th. And this is where if you own a S-Corporation or a partnership, not a Schedule C sole proprietor, this is your tax Super Bowl. Your business return is due. Now you may be asking, why a month before April? Well, that's simple. If you're an S-Corp or a partnership, your business creates a K-1. That K-1 flows into your personal return. And if the business is late, well, then you're personally late. and that penalty is around $235 per month per partner. And that's a penalty whether you owe tax or not. And if you want to know the 90 plus deductions, credits, strategies that can help you save on taxes this year, go to keepmost.com. Okay, and now we get into April. We all know April, this is the highest risk month. April 1st is for our older viewers. If you turned 73 last year, you must take your first RMD. Miss it and the penalty there is very aggressive. April 10th, we report March tips. Then April 15th, everyone knows that date, but most people don't know everything that's actually due. So let's go through it. First, your 2025 tax return, or you can file an extension. But remember, extensions to file is not an extension to pay. Second, you have household employees, think nannies, housekeepers. You file Schedule H. You're an employer in the eyes of the IRS if you have a nanny or a housekeeper. All right, third thing that's due on April 15th. This is what we call your time machine. This is the last day to fund your IRA or your HSA for 2025. Even though it's 2026, you can still lower last year's taxes. And this is one of the few moments where the tax code lets you go backwards in time. Fourth, we have excess IRA contributions. This is when you want to fix them today or pay penalties every single year until you do. Fifth, this is for the self-employed. If you're not filing an extension, today's your deadline to fund a solo 401k or SEP. 6, if you forgot to file in 2022 and you were owed a refund, today is the expiration, April 15th. After this, the IRS keeps the money forever. And while all of that is happening, your Q1 2026 estimated tax is also due. Now, May and June deal with mid-year compliance. May 11th is the deadline to report tips earned in April. May 15th matters if you run a nonprofit organization. This is when Form 990 is due. If you miss this filing 3 years in a row, your tax exempt status is automatically revoked. Now, June 10th is the deadline to report tips earned in May. June 15th is another major checkpoint. This is when your Q2 estimated taxes are due. And here's something most people don't realize. These quarters aren't even. So if you're tracking your quarterly payments, the first quarter covers 3 months. The second quarter only covers 2. So there isn't 4 equal payments spread nicely across the year. Just something to be aware of. June 15th is also important for 2 specific groups. If you are a U.S. taxpayer living abroad, this is your filing deadline. Also, if you are active duty military stationed outside the U.S., this is also your filing deadline. Now, July, August, and September is for monthly reporting and your third quarter taxes. July 10th is the deadline to report tips earned in June. August 10th is the deadline to report tips earned in July. September 10th is the deadline to report tips earned in August. September 15th is when Q3 estimated taxes are due. And this date is also critical for business owners who filed an extension earlier in the year. If you extended your S-Corporation or partnership return back in March, this is the final deadline. There are no more extensions available after this. If you miss this date, penalties apply, and they apply retroactively starting from the original due date. Now, October through December is when we close out the year. October 12th is the deadline to report tips earned in September. October 15th is the final bell for personal tax returns that were extended in April. If you filed for an extension, your Form 1040 must be submitted by this date. This is also the last chance to fix excess IRA contributions without triggering ongoing penalties. For the self-employed people who filed an extension, October 15th is also the final day to fund a solo 401k. Then we move into December. December 10th is the deadline to report tips earned in November. December 31st is when the tax year officially closes. And there are 3 hard stops you need to note. First, 401k contributions must be withheld from your paycheck by this date in order to count for the year. Second, if you are 73 or older, your required minimum distribution must be taken by December 31st. Third, charitable contributions must be completed by this date. That means the charity needs to receive the funds by midnight, not just have a promise or a pledge. And once the ball drops on December 31st, the tax year is closed. Okay, so here's the deal. We put all of this, dates, forms, penalties, into a one-page PDF, and if you want it, it's free. I will leave a link to it in the description. And if you enjoyed this, we did a breakdown of 2026 tax brackets. If you've never seen it, you can click here. If you got value from this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. My name is Karan, and as always, I'll see you in the next video. Take care.